not about Trump per se, it's about how we look at issues,
How we
and I think it's really
negotiate.
important. So while you read, let's deal with it.
That's such a great illustrator.
Impossible.
I'll resend your article because I think it's worthwhile. Shall be done in another minute.
Just hit me with cheap track off.
Don't look at the word shit. That gives me out.
Here. Power.
I don't know what it is.
There was no
Shut up
Okay.
forever, man.
There was no word of that on Thursday, by the way. Your email?
Oh, yeah.
There was no sign of that on Thursday.
No, that's what it was.
You sat back there.
And I responded. By the way, I was watching Little Rascals yesterday.
Oh.
Trump is in the stands when there's their go-kart thing.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Why are you watching
was like 10 minutes of it. Yeah. And it just so happened I was like, oh, Donald Trump.
Tell me the total number of words.
Huh?
Thank the first thing. I like that.
Are
The
we
laws,
ready?
the pages, and the words.
Okay,
There between lawyers.
has everybody finished reading it with the short article?
memo
Yep.
versus long.
Pretend like you're not tired either.
So I'd like to open up the discussion. Alright, so everything that we've done to date has really been about the developer's perspective. And I felt that it was important to look at this article, Structuring Real Estate Deals, because it really is the other side of the coin. And so, wait, are you all finished reading the article? If you're not, maybe you're looking at something else. Are you done, Michael? Or-
No, I'm trying to make up for the 3 minutes. No, I'm looking at the second article. But I'm listening, because I'm just looking at pictures.
I don't wait.
I want to be holding that.
No, it's good. So let's close our laptops and talk about this first, and then we can go back to the other, because I want to get a discussion and understand how, is it my eyes or maybe it's
It's
just
been doing
the
that
screen?
since the news presentation.
Yeah, it's shimmering, if you will. So let's see who wants to open up the discussion about this from a global and then a narrow perspective, because I have a couple of comments on this. Because we have been looking at development, not investor side issues. So I didn't make you write a commentary on this. That's my normal way of doing things. So I'll start off with Ben.
I think globally, I mean, this whole little kind of case study or whatever you want to call it, you know, lets us, I mean, I think we maybe already kind of knew that every investment is unique and there's really no clear guideline on how to structure a deal, but this kind of covers a little bit of everything. I think it's got a really good section on, you know, protections and you know, how to structure deals, but it doesn't tell you how to structure a deal because every deal is different and it depends on risk.
I think that's a really great way to look at it, because there is no one way to write a deal, that's for sure. And part of the challenge is that you won't know until you understand what the parameters are of the deal. And my biggest takeaway is that if everybody says that there is a cheat sheet to write a deal, then you've been led down a primrose path. That's the biggest challenge. Because everybody not everybody, most people in my classes are always saying, tell me what those steps are. And I can't tell you what those steps are.
Yeah.
And that if anything in all of our case studies, you'll see, except for once again, 2 + 2 and 2 × 2, very little else tells you what is the right way to do a deal, right? Because there are so many different ways to make 4, but there's not one right way to tell you how to get to 4. Other observations? No other observations? Yes.
Yeah, you know, it's just as important, you know, when you're putting a deal together, what you're gonna make off the deal, but the second half of how you're gonna get out of the deal.
There you go. All right, so the exit strategy is really key. And so it's interesting. So I don't have that up here, but to me, that's the key here, is because if you don't understand how to exit from the deal, especially from the investor side, then you have a problem. And it's real interesting. I'm going to give you a direct experience once again, and this is happened actually not less than 24 hours ago. So I've been telling you about the my client in Arkansas, and this tale still is ongoing. So we have the land, we have the assets. As I keep telling people, Arkansas and land, those 2 words don't seem to mix well with people on the coast. And so we got the loan term sheet signed in January. Good thing, right?
They keep asking for something new.
Pardon?
I said they keep asking for new stuff, like, oh, we never
They
got this.
did, that's
we never got
correct.
that.
And so we got the loan commitment sign at the beginning of March. It took too long, and so the deal was to get the actual loan completed in March 31st, and then they kept asking for additional information, and they missed the deadline to fund the existing loan and take that out, and they said we need additional collateral. They said a number of other items, I'll leave it as such, and as it turns out, we said, oh, we want additional collateral, great, we'll give you additional collateral if you give us additional funding. They said, no, we want additional collateral
Who is this
without
bank?
additional
I mean,
funding.
what's up with these people? They seem kind of shady, like, they told you one thing, and they're asking for more stuff. Now it looks like they're dragging it on. Now it looks like they don't wanna make the deal, but they're kind of semi-committed, and they're trying to get you guys to not hear it.
Correct. And so, as it now turns out, there are loan shops that function and perform that way. And so this past week, and there shall go nameless, because while I didn't sign any paper, I don't want to disparage anybody on video.
How's that?
That's right. Ben can do whatever he wants. So apparently, they made the decision separately. You don't turn it off. That's not a problem. That they made a decision that ultimately they did not like the collateral that was being tendered. And so one way of dealing with that is to continue to ask for more documentation, which is not a good way to do things, frankly, or to simply say,
We're not interested.
that's not
additional-
interesting. That's right. And so ultimately that's what it came to. And so then as soon as that became apparent, they then said, let's do a general mutual release, if you will.
And did it become apparent after they missed 2 deadlines, or, I mean, how many deadlines does it take for that to become apparent?
Great question. And so then that means that what kind of exit strategy you have to resolve that kind of issue, and do you have in place a plan to get to the next step?
Plan B.
That's right. And we have a plan B, but it's not one that makes it easy to get to that particular point for our investors. And that's part of the challenge of getting
We're
to
trying to
that particular
Get their
point.
plan A.
That's right, that's right, because if you're left holding the bag, then sometimes it stinks, to say the least. So the big issue here too is then what kind of protections do you have, and how and when you get out of a deal too, because there's a cost to getting into a deal, especially when you're managing this, and you have to understand what the price is to get into that deal and what the price is to exit a deal, because they don't mention that here. And that's really important. That, to me, is one of the big missing elements here. What else? Noah, you had your hands up?
In terms of the whole article here,
Yeah.
so I like that I've been dealing with taxes for the last week or so and different structures.
Did you get them in?
Too late.
No. So I've got a
The
couple,
automatic 6 months extension.
I've got a couple entities.
I filed an extension, so there's no shame.
So, different level taxation, I think our course needs to actually get into it because it's real life. So I'm doing our stockholders agreement, our operating agreements, and we're kind of determining which is we already have operating, holding, we're kind of structuring proper tax structure per product, because some products you'll have a longer period, have an entitlement process over
Okay.
a year.
That's smart.
Then you're doing certain gains, passing them through at a profit to another, and we never talk about that kind of stuff. So I thought in addressing this, where they kind of said basically, you have to be cautious of tax stuff, I think we actually need to have someone come here for the future
Good
who
point.
is a CPA, who can speak on different entities. So if this is an SPE, is this gonna be under a master partnership so that you can receive promotes? Or is this gonna be under a sub S for the pass on different gains?
So clearly it can depend on the product, and so for everybody's benefit, a special purpose entity, SPE, may be appropriate versus, and you're talking about subchapter S, whether it's an LLC, whether it's a C corporation.
Well, it said it's
That's right.
really important to have, and, you know, the more I'm going through these agreements, and we're really finalizing everything before we launch, it's like, I'm tax illiterate, maybe sharper than the average bear, but, you know, it's a little bit crazy that we never get into that I think is more, that's more beneficial than certain classes, for sure.
And that's a commentary which I'll let you take up with the good doctor. So an SPE is a special purpose entity. In fact, you would want almost every real estate deal to be segmented, separated, or segregated into a special purpose entity. It doesn't even matter whether it's just for tax, it's for liability reasons. And whether this points it out or not, it's just that way you can shield the entity and your issues from any other activities, and that's critical. And so any deal that we set up, we always create it, whether it's an LLC, C, or S Corp, that you want to make sure that it is a separate legal, tax, physical, any other entity, and that's important. And I'm sure your company probably sets up each deal separately as well.
Yeah. I found this article very interesting because I've been working with 3 developers so far for the last 2 years, and it's amazing how they structure these deals is different. And sometimes the investors suggest ideas, and sometimes the developers approve those ideas or suggestions. And it's an ongoing and back and forth process that can take months before they actually send the money into a escrow account. So it's very interesting. And this is how a developer's mind works. They have to be creative and come up with good ideas and good structures that investors agree and feel they're not being taken advantage.
So then my question next to you is that then who is it who should be leading the effort in structuring these deals?
Well, I think the active partner, who's gonna be managing the development process should probably take the lead on putting this together, even though he may only have 10%, into the deal. He's the one who's gotta manage it, he's the one that's gotta probably create the model, update the model.
If you manage the structure and make it fair for the investor, you're probably gonna get the money faster than doing a structure that is gonna benefit you more than the investor. That's what I think.
That's interesting. Jason, I'm going to talk to this in a second.
So, I spent a little time raising private equity for real estate deals, and we sold and we lost a lot of equity because the equity wasn't geared towards the investor. So, like, you're selling to your market. So really, like, if you're putting together a certain type of deal, you need to go out to the market and figure out, what type of deal structure do the investors want, so that you can go get that money. So I mean, like, you're asking how do you structure that deal? Well, you kind of got to structure it after the money that you're
Market rate.
getting.
Yeah, you gotta kind of know what to wear at the right place.
Well, that's
Don't
right.
show up in flip-flops to the club.
So your target market is really the key. So for example,
No, but
so
you
if
gotta
you're,
know where you're going at.
Yeah,
Well,
say
if you're
your Phil
seeking-
Lynn shows up in shorts.
if you're seeking a debt
Yeah.
or equity investor, each one has a different focus, different temperature, different
Set of requirements.
requirement and rate
And then you can
return.
tweak them, I'm guessing, depending on what you have to offer versus.
Well, that's right. But what Luis said actually was very astute, because if they perceive that they're not getting their fair shake, that's important. The other thing is that, and this will go to ultimately the article that we just read in the New York Times, is that how you position the deal is critical. I'm a true, big believer if the party that you are selling the deal to doesn't believe that they are winning or getting something out of the deal, then it's a waste of time, totally. And it's, how shall I say this? There is no good cop, bad cop in structuring a successful real estate deal. And so you can negotiate when you are dealing with issues, but when you go to sell or pitch a deal, they need to see that you are a qualified managing partner, an operating and management partner, that you understand the native issues of the deal itself, that you have good, I'll call it legal counsel. The lawyers don't always understand how to operate the deal, but they have to frame and structure the deal. And I've never found a lawyer, except once in my entire career, who actually understands how to structure the deal. They know how to embrace it, but I only once have found an attorney who actually understands what's involved in the deal itself. So that's why you have to be knowledgeable.
The
It's a real-
particular deal or a real estate deal in general? Because
Um,
each deal is different.
a real estate deal in general. And that was back in my, my Rockville Center deals. We understood all the different parties and why it was critical to manage the pieces of the deal, and that was a public-private sector deal.
Well, in my experience, usually the lawyers break deals.
They break deals, that's right. Their job, generally, they tend to see is figure out how to take the deals apart.
Apart, yeah.
And you need to find the attorney who's trying to figure out how to make the deals work.
So I
And
think
part of the
there's a
challenge of this is that, and these structures, all these questions are excellent, but these questions generally tend to break the deal apart instead of make the deal. And this is the challenge. I mean, this is a great primer.
I don't know about break them apart. There
I
are
was gonna say,
important things that need to be
they make more
considered
deals.
to be informed so that you can
That's
figure
correct.
out your requirements.
They're more worried about
They're not,
privacy.
I mean, you saying that these are breaking things up is like saying that glass is half empty. I mean, it's half full. You know what I mean? I'm just using an example.
Almost empty and
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, they have a list of the 50 wealthiest attorneys every year that comes out. And in that top 50, there's about 17 developers. Only one actually practices law, who's considered the king of torts. So to say that they don't, like Stephen Ross is an attorney, to say they don't actually
Steve
make,
Ross is a developer.
He's not an attorney.
That-
He's
I
a
mean,
developer.
That's right.
but,
I'm
and
real
the
estate agent.
Pritzkers, you know, they're
That's correct.
attorneys.
Um,
So it's,
They're not
they
the
do
ones who are
put deals
practicing
together.
the
Right.
law to help
The
frame the
practicing law attorney usually is looking at what you shouldn't do because it's not the greatest legal instrument. Just to give you an example, I was listening to Professor Ginestra, the recording from last week, and he was talking about power of attorneys and why powers of attorneys are really bad to use, and
They could be really good.
he scared the crap out of me because really you can revoke it at any time. I mean the
Yeah.
power of attorney. However, I have signed for my clients power of attorneys, and I have closed deals using power of attorneys.
The
So-
attorney's office should not have let you do that.
But they do.
Whoever the attorney's office is should not have allowed you to do that.
But they did.
So you
We're
should look for
digressing
another.
here.
So I don't want to get this
So
focus only on attorneys. So what's good about the article, once again, is that it really becomes a template and a checklist. It doesn't give you the answer, but it becomes a template and checklist, and only by constantly going through each different deal can you develop the expertise. Once again, it doesn't have the answers, it only gives you the guideline for dealing with it. And the only way that I know that how to do a deal is by making the mistakes along the way. And so in this recent deal, and you'll say, well, gee, didn't we know after the first time they extended it and the second time? And
You were hoping, because you
That's
had
correct.
the
right,
incentive
of course.
to want to continue with that lender, so you were hoping that if you got him this, then maybe that would appease him, because you didn't want to have to deal with your backup plan.
This is it. That's right. And so you weigh the risks and the benefits, and you try to balance what's the right way to exit. And now
Or
we
you could have
know.
gone. Or you could have gone straight the first time they started doing it, and you got that little, bug that they made it.
They didn't want to quite go that assertive, apparently.
No,
so
no, but
they
you could
just kind
say,
of
you could
appeased.
say, hey, I wanna try to, please you the most I can, but are you not wanting to do this deal? And then just go for the middle.
It should be that easy.
I wish, yeah, right?
That's
I wish it were that easy.
yeah.
It is that easy sometimes. You just
It's
gotta,
not, it never is.
Never that easy. That's right.
use the force.
So,
I just wanna say.
so the reason why I asked
It's a
you
mental thing.
to look at this article that was in yesterday's New York Times by Neil Irwin is because the issue is that if you are negotiating a deal and it is a deal by which you have either everything or nothing to lose, it makes a huge difference. And so it also depends on which side of the table and how public you are. And so that's why I thought it was fascinating, a lot of points where, if you're President of the United States, everybody knows the hand that you get to play. And the biggest example is, and this is not about politics, it's just that when the President says, oh, we could have a major, major, major complication with Korea, well, wait a second. Can we? Can anybody afford to? We can debate whether that's the case. And can the President afford to say it, and then the State Department say, well, no, we don't really mean it? So let's take that down to a real estate deal. And so can Donald Trump actually afford to say, hey, I'm going to lowball you on an airplane? Sure.
Yeah, because
That
you
makes
can find
sense,
another
because-
airplane.
No, that's right. You can find another airplane. But all right, and so in the case that I'm talking about, so when we couldn't find another likely lender on our real estate deal, we didn't really have an option. So we had to be very careful on how we could manage our ability to negotiate that. And that's for the situation you have to find yourself in. You've got to make a calculated risk as to how far.
Was it too good to begin with?
Pardon?
Was it too good to begin with? Like, you should
No,
have
no,
known?
never was too good to begin with. Absolutely, never was too good.
No, because you just said you couldn't find another lender to offer these type of terms, so is it one
No,
of those like
no.
white unicorn things where?
Yeah,
Like,
no,
those
I
are
would,
your
I would
real?
tell you that the terms were never great. It was a matter of last resort, actually, because it's very difficult. But, and so our exit strategy is, and though it wasn't one that we wanted to go, it's actually going for the equity, which is what we did not want to do because it was premature. And now I'm compelled to go find the equity, which is a very different set of terms than going for debt right now, because equity is going to want a much higher return, a bigger piece of the pie, in fact, a piece of the pie, as opposed to no piece of the pie, if you will. And they're going to want to promote, they're going to want to take 50% of the deal, so to speak, and the risk is losing it if you don't have it at all. And so fortunately, next week is the Urban Land Institute meeting in Seattle. I'll get on the plane, and so now I've got a completely different strategy as to who I've got to go out and talk to.
Did you hear somebody got kicked off a plane last week for getting up while the plane was taxiing to go pee? It was on website. Apparently the
I
plane
missed
was,
that one.
Yeah.
apparently the plane was
Delta.
delayed,
Yeah.
and the guy really had to go urinate. So he got up, he went to go pee, and then obviously they caught this on video, a gentleman coming out and asked him to leave, and not that it made a difference, but the guy was black, and he had kind
It would make a
of
difference
Muslim
to some.
Sami kind of name, but he eventually decided to get off the plane, and the FBI was waiting for him, and then they realized that he just had to go pee, and they didn't make a big deal about it. But I thought it was kind of ridiculous that, I mean, you're
And
sitting on the
that's
taxi
the
for like
news.
half an hour, and like, I think everybody's seen this happen on a plane, right? Somebody just happens to get up and go pee, but
Yeah.
now they like take the plane back, get this guy off. I'm like,
It's the world we live in.
it's ridiculous.
Unfortunately.
That's crazy.
You've been quiet. You've been quiet. Fast participation. You read the article.
I did. I found it interesting, and I found it interesting related to the other case studies that we had to read
And what
and
we
write about. Just like the exit strategies that can, read about this one and compare it to the New York Times exit strategy. That the investors had all this already lined up, so those investors from that to this, and put into that article or that case study.
All right, that's fine.
Better.
Yeah, I read it, I highlighted out.
No,
what I
it-
said,
it- Once again, it's,
She highlighted it.
I did, I read the whole thing.
she did. That's fine. In pink.
Yeah.
How many of you have pink highlighters?
I mean,
Really?
you come in a pack.
I mean, I've got like 5 different colors.
No, I didn't know if that was a sexist comment on my part or not. That's fine. And Daniel, did you have a comment? Did you read the article?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting, when I brought up the counterparty contribution, where you have the counterparty investors talking about where they are willing to put in their investment into the, put their equity into investments, but they want to have the owner
to put their skin in the game. Like putting like 10%, which I've come across within the world of private equity, where usually when you have an investment opportunity, you're willing to go in, but you're also kind of like unsure, or like there's uncertainty within the deal. So you want to make sure that the original owner, they put their that they put their certain amount into the project, just to show certainty that that the project will go through.
I mean, why is that interesting? That's kind of common practice in business. That's
Yeah,
skin
it
in
is.
the game. There's nothing interesting about that.
Gold.
I mean, that's common
That is
business
Well,
practice.
so
Wouldn't it
Noah
be
always
the
lets us know
promoter
his
family,
opinion
Yeah.
you don't like it.
about what's interesting.
I mean, I'm just.
So actually, on that note, why don't I continue forward on this? So once again, it's not just the investor's perspective, it is the lender's perspective too, and they are an investor as well. So I wanted to put this up because I think this is also part of that discussion. So the structuring of a deal really has three parts. It's not just the developer, it's not just the investor, which is the equity, it's clearly also about the debt side of the coin. And I'll put this up in Blackboard, but I don't know if any of you have heard what we call the 5 C's of credit. And it's really about capacity, capital, collateral conditions.
What is capacity?
Well,
Your ability
I'm going
to
to
perform.
Your ability to perform and pay and execute.
Yeah, there we go. So thank you, Ben. Your ability to pay. It's the most critical. In other words, you've got to be able to actually perform. Thank you very much. That's right. And actually, they're going to demonstrate that you've got the cash flow to afford the debt service coverage ratio on the deal. Yes?
I'm gonna go with San Miguel here, and he says character is the most important thing, because even if, say, someone like Stephen Ross or George Perez went and they gave back an asset, they'd still be able to borrow based on their character in the future, without the capacity, essentially.
So you make an interesting point, and so San Miguel is right about that they can go back to the till and borrow.
It's more about relationship.
But that's about relationship. But my guess is to get the loan in the first place, the lender is going to say, do you have the ability? And so let's go back to this deal that I've been talking about. Because the first thing is they're going to say is, where's the cash flow? Now, by the way, it was a land deal, and we said, there's no real cash flow. In fact, it's not cash flow that's generated by the income of the asset, it's cash flow that's generated by the land sale. So then they say, oh wait, what's your land sales pro forma? And so we had an appraisal done by their appraisers that validated and verified that we could sell how many lots per year over a period of 5 years or so. By the way,
So you had entitled it and
so the loan was
subdivided.
only for 1 year with 2 6-month extensions. So we said, why do you care what goes on after that? Because they were looking at an exit strategy too, as well. But so look, you can debate, it's all 5 of the C's that are important, but if you don't have this capacity, the rest doesn't really matter. So that's why I'm putting this at the top, and we can, you've got a lender who just wants to look to your great character, Noah, and that's wonderful. But usually they'll say capacity.
I mean, I don't, but I was just saying.
Maybe you don't have character, but maybe you have capacity. I'm being very serious. No, we can all laugh, but it's very interesting.
Goes around, comes around.
So in days.
No hair, no character.
So let's go back to the 20th century, certainly back to 19th century and beyond. And so in days of old-fashioned white male privilege, all they cared about was your
I'd
character.
be building a railroad.
Yeah, okay.
Well, actually not really, because I'm Korean, but
Okay.
you get the gist of that.
But seriously,
Dogs.
So like in like the 80s, you were saying?
No, I said 19th century, like the 1800s.
that's right. Thank you very much. And even and look, I'll even say so. When I got my when I built my first vacation home, You know, when I went up to the Catskills in New York, I mean, we sat down, my husband and I, Charles, we sat down with a local banker, and he wanted to see who we were. It's back in the 1980s, okay? And that's, you know, another
So you definitely
century
were
ago.
not married.
Right, but we weren't married then.
Yeah, I was
We weren't
gonna
allowed to
say.
get married back then.
Yeah, just play high interest rates.
Okay, but, you know, we sat down with a local banker and wanted to see who we were, what we were, and all that. And, you know, it was assumed that we had capacity. And there, he wanted to see what our character was like, right? And so, based upon that, he said, sure, I'll give you a loan. I'll even write you out a little construction loan too. You know, we borrowed $200,000 just because, and we built a house. There was none of this paperwork. There was none of this whole stuff. Right, I know, it's a different world, seriously. And so, by the way, when you think about the 19th, the 18th, 17th century, the people in Europe would offer these letters of credit. They would offer letters of introduction, if you will. I mean, that was really all about character. And that was a system that was so biased, so inbred. People, probably most of you in this room, would never have been able to get anything. Certainly women would have gotten nothing, right? So this is why I think, no, so let's think seriously. And so it's much fairer that we at least start with capacity, okay? And we can debate with San Miguel whether or not this makes sense. Okay, so after capacity comes the capital and what you have in your skin in the game and your assets behind it. Because if you have the capacity, and what if it does run dry, what other assets do you have that can help you in that? And that's why they look at amount at risk and whether you have any money down, your resources behind it, skin in the game, right? This is really what's important, okay? So I think it's really necessary to be alert and aware as to why you're evaluated in this particular way. And then, okay, what other collateral can you offer? Now, most people, when they borrow their house, it's a non-recourse loan. But of course, when we get into the real estate development game, it becomes recourse. And remember when we looked at Steel Street? I mean, when we looked at Pinckney Street, what else did they have to offer? And it became a real challenge. And they had to sign. And in fact, major real estate developers, even the Relateds and the Forest City Raptors, they have to sign away a lot of their assets.
Sometimes.
Sometimes not, that's right. So if you pledge that, that becomes another assurance level of what's going on. And then we have the conditions. I mean, are you actually using the loan for what it's intended? They have to make sure there are assurances for that, okay? And this is important. So, for example, on this particular deal that we were talking about, the lender said, what are you using the money for? And we gave him the list for the working capital. And in fact, wait, you want to go redevelop that asset? But we don't have that piece of collateral in the deal. And he said, you're right, we'll throw that in. Because we wanted to redevelop one of the buildings that wasn't pledged.
Oh, so you guys were changing the deal after you guys had an agreement?
No,
That's why
actually,
were
they changed the
terms.
deal. They changed the deal, and then we put it back. We put it in because we said, okay, if you want to do that, then we'll actually use the funds for it. So we switched it around for them. But
So
the point
did
is
you
that
use
it's
a
really
part-
important to make sure you get that right.
Let
Pardon?
me see if I heard that properly here. So you cross-collateralized assets,
We
but
actually
threw it-
cross-collateralized it, and then
but threw it into the collateralization of the deal itself. So the deal was collateralizing itself, and if it was an Excel cell, you would not be allowed to do it because it would be
Circular reference.
circular reference there.
Sneaky.
Is that what just happened?
I'll let you figure that out. Because we had about 4 or 5 other lenders, we had some other assets off to the side, so it's a complicated deal, if you will. But so it's really important to make sure it's used right and done right as well. And then finally we'll get to the character. Okay? They're all important. Okay? No question. Your ability to get it done and to speak to who you are and what it is, because you're only as good as your last deal and your reputation. Because if you don't have a good reputation, that's not great at all. And so if you screwed up on a deal, of course there are too many developers out there who've gone belly up, who've done bad, and then they come back to the till. But if they are George Perez or they've got a better reputation, they can come back. But I'm sure we can name dozens who have done bad and they don't come back to the children.
Look at Donald Trump, going bad, coming back, becoming president. I mean,
Not bad.
and his character, I mean,
You gotta read the
So
thought.
we can have a debate, and I'm convinced he has no character that's worthy in a traditional sense.
Oh, yeah, so
But the
in-
challenge
yeah,
is, and what's happened is that, you know what happens is that oftentimes, when the borrower has so much out, they end up flipping the terms and they end up having more leverage than the lender. Because the lender,
They have so much invested.
that's correct. So, this is the nature of the beast, but we'll leave it at that. So, you know, it's not necessarily the right world that we live in, so they're the 5 C's, and we'll go from there. All right. All right, so let's have a little discussion on Steel Street. I'm going to hand back your case studies.
Another B. Only you get A's.
Were you the excellent example again?
I don't know, let's find out.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
I'm sure it was.
You don't have to be sure.
You guys have bonded.
No, by the way, this is an old one. Bonded? That sounds like a piece of glue or something. Stick it against the table or whatever. This
Really
is
good.
an old one. You know, you were both out of the room on one of those there, so we can talk about those if you want.
I still don't get my first one right, by the way.
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I wasn't here.
Oh wait, here's Mary Alice.
She got an A.
From Steel Street.
Excellent. Either that or I'm very disappointed.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Once you perform in a certain way, I expect you to continue to perform that way.
She got a
Ah,
minus.
Yeah. You guys-
Yeah, she did. It's an excellent analysis.
Excellent. That's why she's writing out.
Oh, she got an A.
paper.
There you go.
Yeah.
Figures.
See,
And you performed better.
no
That's
bullet
why-
points.
Yeah, I know.
No
No bullet points.
Congratulations.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. See, this is that pissed me off. Look, there's 5 bullet points, and the example he put up had like 50 bullet points, and it's an excellent example. Consistency, Mark. Consistency.
you know what, I actually noticed that.
Wow.
I sent him an email back.
So actually, what's really
Wow.
great is a number of you performed really well and have improved.
You know, I'm really happy that last time you gave a bunch of A's.
Well, I read
I don't feel as happy about this A because like there were 3 of them floating around the cloud. It's the first time he gives out A's.
Yeah, but because I downloaded it.
Let me ask you something, what did he circle for you? Hour?
Wait, so here are my comments, if you will. So look, you're writing, everybody's doing much better. You know, Michael will give you a grace period or something like that.
I'll write you an accounting memo next time.
Yeah, that'd be good. And so, remember, your case studies are 40% of your grading. Your major study project is 40% of your grading. Your class participation is the other 20% of your grading. And so, you know, there have been 4 case studies, 10, 10, 10, and 10. And, but I always reserve the right to evaluate at the end how everything works together. And gee, now we can have confetti. Thank you, Mr. Colley.
This is
So-
my last class, by the way, so
Your last what?
my last class. I'm done.
You are.
No, I mean next week. but-
Next week, okay. And so most of you actually do
Form
have
out.
the form. Most of you have gotten the way of getting it. And if I didn't give you quite the best grade, it's because you didn't quite get the right points. But I'm pleased with really how most everybody has done. You included, too. Because he didn't get as good a grade as he did the last time. So, but I'm not saying anything about that. I'm really not. Really
I
not.
wrote it like-
By the reason, I used the word R because you said specifically you don't use I or I, so I try to make it like R analysis. There is no
Right, I know,
R.
I know. But let's really get specific here. That's still that's still.
But somebody's analyzing this, somebody's performing, right? No? Maybe?
I guess we'll have to go back to English
bullet
language.
points. Right.
The English language here. So first person, second person, third person. I, which is first person, like to see the analyses done in third person, not in first or second person. All right, so our is really the second person as opposed to the first person, I. And so it's easy enough to change the analysis because you don't want to personalize any of the analyses. Just trying to say it, the analysis is, or the conditions are, as opposed to our. Excuse me. That's a small thing, because, by the way, I gave him an A anyways, but guess what? Because I didn't knock on that. All right, guys.
I think I earned an A, you didn't give it to me.
For the video. The two came together with the melding of the minds. Yes, okay. But you all have improved, and really, really. So you should be pleased with that as well. So I really want you to get into your groups. Here's something that we're going to do. Next week, we are going to be meeting at the back for our presentations. The whatever the name of that cultural center is. We're actually going to do the presentations in the downstairs gallery instead of the upstairs room. They're going to set aside one of the gallery spaces.
Air conditioner. Can we go
It's air conditioned.
Can we go take a look at this today after class so we know what our setting's gonna be? I thought we're gonna do it in here. Be nice to know where we're presenting.
You're not gonna know if you go to a client's office.
You might.
You might not.
So we can go online and look at what.
That place is big though.
Is it the
Talking about
coffee
the
shop?
shark tank place?
What?
No, the same place where we went to have that second class.
When we met Emily.
Oh, I thought you meant here.
No,
like,
no,
where
no,
they're
no,
gonna
no.
be.
No. So the downstairs art gallery has
By the coffee shop.
2 spaces next to the, and they're going to set aside, because nobody really goes there on Saturday morning, one of the rooms, okay. Dr. Forgy is actually going to bring the screen and the projector. What we're going to do is, I've called for them to actually meet us at 10 a.m. We're all going to get there at 8. And Dr. Forgy and I, along with Susan, we're going to prep. We're going to do run-throughs. We're going to give you the opportunity to yes, practice with us, because we have a client in effect here. And so it gives us the ability to see how you do it, and we'll critique or gently help you. And I know that's a little bit maybe last minute but that way we can help see where you are saying, what you're doing, and how you're doing it at that point in time.
Susan's the librarian, is that correct?
Yes.
So without sounding harsh, I know I have this
But
tendency to.
it just might.
It probably will. But in development 1, she has some questions that were out of left field, really not real estate related. Is the
As
idea
opposed to right field?
just to have, well, at least in the ballpark, is the idea is just to have I guess a layperson there to just kind of ask.
So she's a knowledgeable individual.
I'm not saying she's ignorant. I'm just saying
No, she's very knowledgeable.
Right.
And so she's been through this program for the last 3 or 4 years, or whatever it is, and understands sources, knows about real estate in its own way, and so I've consistently seen her as a good bellwether of how people do or don't present and understand the topic that they're dealing
No,
with.
so you and Slicky, have the
So Michael, the person
sorry,
who gives the grades
It's too early. It's you.
is me.
Right. Yeah. So you're the crowd. You're my audience.
Right. And Michael's done well with me before, so you have nothing to fear except me.
I have nothing to fear.
That's right, nothing to fear at all. That's right.
But fear itself.
If so said Franklin Roosevelt. That's right. So this is really all about trying to do well by the client, trying to not only write the report well, perform the presentation well, dress the part well.
Have to wait to see what
I'm sorry, I just want to say it because I'd rather you as lovely as you all are, show up in something better than what you're wearing this morning.
Fresh haircuts, fresh haircuts.
I mean, I'm okay with this.
You may be, and I'm not. Okay? Because who knows where the next opportunity comes from. Okay?
And who are we meeting with?
So Chris Brown, who's the executive director of the CRA, Emily Marcus, and I'm going to ask her who else may or may not be present there for that meeting. Okay? And it's also for the school, and maybe
Who's gonna be there for more program?
certainly Dr. Fergie and myself, and I'm going to ask
And
him
where are we
who else
meeting?
may be as well. Hmm?
Where are we meeting?
At the BACA, at the Arts Center.
The same place downstairs,
room
but
with
Same place with the hot AC?
right.
Yeah,
and,
so basically wear shorts and a collared shirt.
No,
There you go.
There you go.
Thank you.
I'll wear some
Tommy Bahama.
loafers, a nice,
With the dancing bells back.
So,
can I wear a shirt?
so I'm
I would recommend everybody wear shorts.
and
Except for us.
that's
Except for
so
our-
I'm making a simple suggestion because I gather in this day and age I can't make those kinds of requests because maybe it's prohibited under Title something or other, whatever.
Hair and skinny jeans.
I think Ben should come with his construction fatigues to show some like,
First of all,
authenticity.
I don't wear construction fatigues. It would be a hard hat if anything.
And
but-
steel toe boots.
Manager,
Right.
not a
All right,
project
breaking news.
doer.
Do your thing. And I'm gonna come around and have a serious discussion.
Can I show you the financials? Wait, you got a second?
Absolutely. I don't know what you're doing in that.
Where did you say to have that?
Assigned it based on the numbers, so I get a different size. Really, the market analysis is 70% same and 30%
There's a nice one, I think, it's out west.
This is worth it, right?
Get it.
Okay.
It's a, it's just in another class and stuff like that, and it's, or like, look,
Yeah.
I plan on using a heavy majority of what I use there, and modifying it for our development. I just want to make sure we don't have any issues. I mean, at least in this class, you can't control what goes on in that class. I mean, it's
You're
my own work.
now gonna show me
Yeah.
what you're gonna do, then I still believe in the appropriate equilibrium and or capture analysis for whatever it may be done.
Yeah.
I don't know what methodology
No, yeah, I'm
is done
just-
or requested that you.
Yeah, I'll show you what I did, and then I'll show you how I cite it, and we'll go from there. I just wanted to make sure we're using it. I didn't think it would, but I want to have the conversation, because I don't know if he's gonna be there. I don't know if he's gonna be there, and he says, because he made a comment, like, I'm going to be looking for this, or I'm going to be very interested to see who's doing that. I'm like, first of all, okay, my son, that class I already submitted it. I haven't even finished this one.
Okay.
So if anything, I would, you know,
I will also
So I just-
confirm with Fred,
yeah.
just to make sure that.
But I've made sure that I put inside my material that, this relies heavily on, working through this assignment. And obviously I'm tweaking it for ours and adding additional stuff that it is.
Well, and so you're sourcing it, you're referencing it.
Are we done with class?
But-
So I can go work on
Okay,
this?
great.
Are we done with class, so I can go work on this?
This is class, and you should be working on this is our decision now. That's right, that's fine. Okay. Daniel, you and I want to got it.
So, I wanna show you that
I'll
stuff.
take a look at that. I forgot my laptop at home, so I got